When it comes to this review, my first mistake was not taking any notes while I was reading from which to build this review. You'd think after almost a year of this I'd have this down, but apparently not. Hi everyone, Rosie here. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the new filming setup space thing. Obviously you guys can't tell that the rest of the room has changed in addition to what's behind me, but I promise it has. Different room, different home, different setup. I'm getting used to it. I have to stand up now. I don't know if that's gonna be a good thing or a bad thing. Anyways, enough about this. Let's get on to the video. As you smart title readers already know, this is a review of the ABC Murders by Agatha Christie. If you don't follow Hugo of Scientist's Reading World, you absolutely should. His channel is so much fun. And in May, he's organizing what he's calling May Perfect Murders. So you have probably heard of the book 8 Perfect Murders, which has been pretty popular. It's been going around for a while now. I can't remember the author. It'll be mentioned down below. Anyways, it's a book where a bookstore owner, I think, writes a blog post about the 8 perfect murders in literature. So he picks 8 books where he thinks the murder is perfect and he writes about them, and then someone starts doing crimes using the style or something. It sounds great. Hugo is organizing a thing where he is reading all 8 of the books mentioned in 8 Perfect Murders, and then I think 8 Perfect Murders itself, and reviewing them, and he invited anyone who would like to join in to make their own video reviewing one of these books. That's what this is. Too much intro. Let's get to it. You might guess, because it's 2/3 of the way through the month and you're just now seeing me refer to this project, challenge, readathon, whatever we want to call it, that I definitely did not have time in May to read all 8 books, nor frankly did I really want to. Lana did a similar project where she vlogged herself reading all 8 of the books and then the final 8 Perfect Murders book back earlier this year, I think, and based on that I knew I wasn't interested in reading all of them, but I definitely had time to fit in the audiobook of the ABC Murders, and I'm reading Poirot anyways these days, so I was happy to skip forward in my reading a little and pick this one up this month so I can join in. The ABC Murders is the 12th book in the Poirot series. I've only read up to the 4th, plus Death on the Nile. These are basically standalone. You can read them in pretty much any order, with the exception of like 2 or 3 that have spoilers for others, so I was totally happy to jump on in with this one. In his announcement video, Hugo suggested that we both review the book itself and the murder and try and give our thoughts and opinion on whether or not we think it's a perfect murder. So I'm going to split this video into 2 parts. The first part will be a general, non-spoilery review of the book as a whole. In the second part, I am going to spoil stuff and I'm going to talk about whether or not I think it's a perfect murder. Getting into the general review, however, the first thing I noticed in this one, and I think I really noticed it because I skipped ahead, Hastings has improved so much. If you haven't read any of the Poirot books, I think a fair number of them have this narrator, but as I said, I've only read a few so far, so I'm not sure. But Poirot's friend, Captain Hastings, often accompanies him on his detectiving and then writes about it afterwards, basically. So we see these mysteries through Hastings' perspective. And in the first few books, he is awful. Like, you expect an upper-class British man from the 1920s to be sexist and racist and arrogant and all this stuff, but like, he takes it to a whole new level. Thankfully, in this one, he's mellowed out a bit. He was fine as a narrator. I mean, again, still racist, still sexist, all this stuff, but like, we've eased back. Also, this one sees Poirot teasing Hastings at times and poking fun at him, which, as someone who doesn't love the character, just improves everything. I don't think it's spoiling anything to say that this is also the first Poirot book that I've read that has a serial killer. I can't remember if Miss Marple ever goes toe-to-toe with a serial killer or not. I don't think so, though. So it might actually be the first time I've ever read an Agatha Christie book with a serial killer in it. And that was really interesting. It really changed the feel and the setting and the pacing of the book. Instead of spending the entire novel in one partially or entirely self-contained setting, you know, often her books are in a country house somewhere where very few people are coming and going, or in a very small village type thing. Instead, in this one, we have multiple locations. Things are happening fast. We also don't have one group of characters where everyone's involved. Instead, we've got lots of smaller groups. Again, usually Poirot novels are group gathered. The classic is always a country house, right? Family, friends, acquaintances, staff, everyone's here. Seemingly everyone has a motive to have committed the murder, but also seemingly everyone has an alibi, and Poirot has to figure out who's lying and what happened and who was where when. But we don't get that this time. We don't get the huge amount of time spent with one group of people. I actually really enjoyed this. Not to say I don't enjoy Agatha Christie's usual style, because I do. I wouldn't read them if I didn't. But this one, because there was so much happening and because we had so little time to spend on each murder, we don't get the annoying thing that sometimes happens in Poirot novels where he announces halfway through the book that he solved it and he knows who the killer is, but he won't tell anyone because he's trying to gather some proof or something. But also, he knows it based on evidence that we, the reader, haven't seen. That annoys me so much. I know it's a silly thing to get annoyed about, but I really enjoyed that in this one, when we were in the dark, he was also in the dark, and I feel like I started to form thoughts at around the same pace as Poirot, which was a lot of fun. Speaking of which, I feel like the way she set up this story and the way she wrote this one, I was really suspicious. I mean, I'm always suspicious. It's a murder mystery, of course. That, like, the point is to be suspicious. But in this one, I found myself really questioning things. So there's one character who's clearly set up as you're supposed to think he's the killer, so obviously he isn't, but then things are so like, but how can he not be? And there was another character that I don't know if I was supposed to suspect him or not, but things were written in a way where you could sort of go, oh, I wonder, would that be the twist? That could be a cool twist. It wasn't the twist, but I liked that the way this was set up and the way everyone was written in this. I was really questioning everyone involved. One thing I'll mention that I'm starting to sort of feel like, okay, I'm over it, is the fact that the police need to constantly question and doubt Poirot. Like I said, I've by no means read all of the novels about him yet, but it feels like every single one needs to have a police officer who has no confidence in him and just thinks he's a kind of senile old man who doesn't get it. I think this sort of thing is included because it's supposed to help us see how brilliant Poirot is and how ahead of everyone else he is and how no one else can understand his methods. But it just doesn't work for me. We know he's brilliant. We see him solving these crimes. We don't need someone doubting him to convince us. And it just feels really implausible that everyone seems to doubt him so much, despite all of the success he's had and the fame and the publicity, and I just don't buy it, honestly. I get police doubt when I'm reading a Miss Marple novel because she's a random little old lady who's sitting around knitting and it's not like her stuff is widely publicized. But in the Poirot books, we're always talking about how he's super famous, he's super celebrated, he keeps getting written up in the papers, he's solving famous cases. And yet he always seems to work with the one police officer who goes, this guy doesn't know anything. I don't know. It just starts to bug you after a while. Hopefully it won't be the case in every single one of these, but it's not an aspect I love of these books. Alright, let's talk spoilers now. So I guess if you don't want to watch the spoilery section, which I would totally understand, leave a comment down below. Let me know if you've read Christie or not. I don't know. Talk to me about whatever you want to. Let's just have a chat in the comments. And if you've either already read this or you don't care about spoilers, I will see you in a second. Okay, so the murder in this. As I mentioned earlier, and as you know, probably if you're watching the spoilery section, this book involves a serial killer who starts to send Poirot letters announcing that he is going to kill someone, what day he is going to kill someone, and where he is going to do it. So, you know, the first one is something like in Andover on July 30th, or I can't remember the dates, but you get the idea. And then everyone sort of goes, oh yeah, it's just someone who's obsessed with you. We get these sorts of things all the time. Don't even worry about it. Except in Andover on July 30th, or whatever the date is, a woman turns up dead. This woman is called Alice Asher, after Betty Barnard in Bexhill turns up dead. We realize we're on some sort of ABC themed murder spree. You probably guessed that from the title though. What makes these killings really interesting, though, is the fact that in each case, if it hadn't been for the letter and the fact that an ABC Railroad guide turned up with the body, there would have been an explanation. So in every case, there's someone who plausibly could have killed the victim. There's a plausible story. There's someone that the blame would have fallen on if the serial killer hadn't taken credit. So that's sort of a question. What's going on with this? For the first several murders, Poirot is stumped. There's really nothing to go off of. This guy or girl is really thorough. They're covering their tracks. They're not leaving any evidence behind. There's seemingly no clues to go off of. And then before the fourth murder, a group of the friends and family of the deceased get together and try and help Poirot and work together to try and solve this crime. My guess from about partway through the novel was that the murderer was actually going to be a group of murderers, and it was going to be someone who knew each victim, and they'd all somehow grouped up, because it seemed like it was too convenient that everyone had someone who wanted them dead or would benefit from they were dead or might be prone to killing them if something were to happen. I sort of thought, okay, all of this serial killer is really picking people where there's someone to pin the blame on. So what's going on with this? Why? Why take credit if otherwise you can just pin the blame on someone else and get away with it, have no attention drawn to you? That's something weird. But the victims and their families and friends are all from different parts of the country, very different social classes, different walks of life. I couldn't see how they would have had contact with each other, let alone formed a close enough bond to commit murder together. That's a pretty big thing. You don't meet someone randomly in the street and go, you need to kill someone? I also need to kill someone. Wow, what a coincidence that mine's an AA in A and yours is a BB in B. That just doesn't happen. So it's sort of like, I feel like that must be the answer, but I don't see how. And it turns out I was partially right. In the end, it's revealed that all of the murders were committed by one person, but it was the family of one of the victims. So the third victim, his brother wanted to kill him because reasons, as you know, family stuff, as it is in Christie anyways. But he knew that if he just killed his brother, all of this suspicion would probably fall on him. So he decides to hide his murder in amongst a bunch of other murders. In essence, he becomes a serial killer, invents a serial killer persona, draws a lot of attention to it, so that everyone is focused on catching the serial killer and no one stops to think about the brother's murder in and of itself. I think in concept, it's great, but in reality, it just doesn't hold up. As I said, in theory, it's brilliant. By creating a serial killer, you remove the focus from any individual victim and put the focus on the larger group. So now people are looking at things that might connect the larger group, or people who might be connected to the larger group, or something like that, not the specifics of the one murder. But like I said, in practice, I just can't see it working. I suppose a certain amount of skill could get you through the initial killing the decoy victims, as long as you're careful to not choose people that you're in any way connected with, and you're very careful to cover your tracks when going to murder them. I guess you might eventually get away with that. Although I think that is a lot more plausible in the 1930s than it is now, when we've got CCTV cameras and GPS on our phones and credit card receipts and all of that sort of stuff. But then you get to the murder of the person you're actually doing all of this to kill. And here I just don't think it could hold up. Because yes, they're not going to be looking at the victim's friends and family and likely suspects as closely. Of course, they're expecting it to be a serial killer. They're not expecting the serial killer to be doing all this to kill this one person. But you still need to have a solid alibi and a solid story and cover your tracks really carefully. There is so much chance here. So much chance that someone doesn't see you at the wrong time, or that you don't miss a piece of evidence, or that your story doesn't quite hold up because of something you couldn't plan for. That I can't see it actually being possible to pull off. Essentially, I think this would involve such a huge amount of planning to pull off, and such a huge amount of luck, that realistically I don't think it would work. Obviously, I'm theorizing about all of this in a fictional context. Do not advocate or condone murder. Don't kill people. It's Wrong. It's bad. I shouldn't need to include that, but you know, let's cover all bases. So to sum things up, well, I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was really fun. The audiobook was great. I personally wouldn't consider it a perfect murder, but then I guess that also raises the question, can you write a perfect murder in a mystery that can also be solved? I don't know. Let me know what you think down below. And as always, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up down below. If you would like to see more of my videos, please hit subscribe, and thank you for watching.